The 49ers are 4-4 and currently resting during their bye week with the trade deadline quickly approaching. And if history tells us anything, the 49ers are typically buyers right at the trade deadline. You go back to trades with Jimmy Garoppolo, Emmanuel Sanders, Chase Young, Christian McCaffrey, Randy Gregory. The list goes on. The 49ers tend to buy during that trade deadline. It could be to bolster up the team's morale. It could be to bolster an area that they feel they're weak in order to go on that run for a potential Super Bowl. So the question is, with the 49ers injuries, you have some big ones with Brandon Ayuk, Javon Hargrave, Elijah Mitchell, McCaffrey still being out, Drake Greenlaw still being out. Will the 49ers buy on the offensive side or on the defensive side? Now, because of Kyle Shanahan's system, I don't really see any big major moves on the offensive side. He's going to lean a lot more on his rookies such as Jacob Cowing and Ricky Pearsall. We saw that Ricky Pearsall really exceeded expectations during this past game with Brandon Ayuk being out. He took on a bigger role, and you're going to have Jawan Jennings coming back from injury. So I think that side's going to be fine. What the 49ers need to do, and will probably explore doing, is continue addressing that defensive line. That's always one of the hot commodities when it comes to the trade deadline for the 49ers. I could see that being another case. Now, they don't want to trade for somebody in which they're going to be affected cap-wise for years to come. They're already trying to move money around to carry over to next year because they're going to have to address Brock Purdy. Now, the interior of the line with Javon Hargrave currently out, and honestly, Leonard Floyd not producing as much, I can see maybe a move or two for a defensive end and a defensive tackle. You've had many different names go across, even so much as DeForest Buckner from the Indianapolis Colts. Many of you remember he was a loved, treasured 49er, and they just couldn't come to a contract agreement, and they ended up trading him for a first-round pick and keeping Eric Armstead instead and paying him $15 million a year instead of the $19 million a year that DeForest Buckner got. Now, there's a lot of rumors that could be on the table. DJ Jones is potentially on the table, or maybe knocking on the door to the Patriots and some of the resources that they have there. What we do know is the 49ers are thin at the defensive line. And the way that Chris Kasarik likes to attack that defensive line is keep those linemen as fresh as possible, constantly rotating. That way you're keeping that pressure. Now, with the defensive secondary really showing out, you don't need to really address that. That's become one of their stronger areas. In the past, the defensive line has been the identity of the 49ers defense. Now it's more of the linebackers in secondary instead of the linebackers in the defensive line. So you want to try to shore up that middle a little bit more, even though Malik Collins has been doing phenomenal things right there in the center. There's a big thing that you want to consider is if you play the Lions in the playoffs, they have one of the best offensive lines in the entire NFL, if not the best offensive line. You have running teams that you're going to face. The Green Bay Packers have a running game. The Philadelphia Eagles have a running game. And so the thing that you need to do is take care of that interior of the defensive line. Your linebackers can go sideline to sideline other than Devondre Campbell. And so you need to protect that center to keep the linemen off of your linebackers. And so you might need to address by getting another defensive tackle and a defensive end to help set that edge. And I think the 49ers are potentially going to make a few moves in that area. You have Zadarius Smith from the Browns, who's potentially, the Browns could be sellers. Now, I have my own selfish ambitions. And I would say, you know what, go all in. Go get Myles Garrett. Give up 3 first-round picks. You've done it before. Do it again. Except this time it's for somebody who's proven and on the defensive side that can go opposite Nick Bosa. 49ers aren't going to do that. But Zadarius Smith could be a nice cog on the opposite side. He's a little older, 32. He's not going to break the bank, but he is a veteran presence that the 49ers could look into. You got Azeez Ojulari from the Giants, who could be another person that's available. Now, the Giants may not be willing to give him up, considering they're going to be in a rebuilding mode, but you never know. With the record that they are now, they will probably be sellers, and who knows, maybe the 49ers can offer them something that they just can't refuse. You have a few other guys, such as Sebastian Joseph Day, who is already familiar with the 49ers defensive system because he played last year during that run, and he would help shore up that run defense during for a run to the Super Bowl. And, of course, another familiar face, Chase Young. This, if you're not going to get a Myles Garrett, which they're not going to get, if you're not going to get Ojulari, I think taking another shot at Chase Young. It's not going to cost you anything. They paid most of his guaranteed salary already this year. Last year, even though he didn't pan out, he still had some good games. You still ended up getting a comp pick back for him that equaled what you gave up to get him. So you didn't really lose anything in the draft status. And the same thing would take place here. He's on a one-year deal. Let's say he shows out. Maybe you can work out a contract. Even if you don't, you get that comp pick back. So I think maybe knocking on the Saints door and say, hey, we know you're going to be in salary cap hell next year. You're always $75 million over the cap. Let us take Chase Young. We'll give you a third-round pick for him. And guess what? The 49ers, if they don't re-sign him next year, they're going to get that comp pick back when Chase Young goes to another team. I think that's a win-win situation. He knows the team. He knows the players already there. It's already a culture fit in the locker room because that's what you don't want to do. You don't want to pick up somebody that's going to affect the culture in the locker room. Since Chase Young already knows the team, the players already know him, that might be one of the winning moves for the 49ers is go get a Chase Young. You might be able to get him for a 4th or 5th round pick this year instead of the 3rd that you gave up last year. The thing is, the 49ers need to make a move, and the defensive line will show that you are in it to win it this year, because that's the biggest area, the biggest question mark. Even though they're ranked 6th currently against the run, they haven't faced any of the strong running teams yet. What's going to happen when they play the Lions? What's going to happen when they play the Packers or the Eagles? They need to be able to stop the run and make these other teams one-dimensional, and that's when the 49ers defensive backfield can take over the game. But you have to stop the run. If you can't stop the run, you're not going to win any games, and you're not going to go deep into the playoffs. Well, that's all we have for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.